welcome to the Sidewalk CEO Podcast, a podcast for small business owners by small business owners. Each week, the Sidewalk CEO speaks with Frankfort area business owners about their journeys, sharing insights and firsthand experiences that can help fuel your path to success. Here are your hosts, Sherry Donahue, CEO and Chief Cybersecurity Evangelist of Commonwealth Sentinel Cybersecurity, and Leo Haggerty, founder of TCHQ Communications.
And I am Leo Haggerty from TCHQ Communications.
And I'm Sherry Donahue from Commonwealth Sentinel.
Thank you for joining us for another episode of the Sidewalk CEO. This is number 3. And what we do each week is we talk with folks who are running businesses in and around Frankfort and Franklin County, find out what their journey has been like, what they've learned, what they want to share. And of course, it gives you an opportunity to learn more about their business and maybe to find a new place to eat, to water to drink, or maybe where to get bourbon balls. But
absolutely.
Today we have
Amy Smith from the Evergreen Southern Kitchen and Gathering Place.
And Amy is a rather accomplished individual who's had a number of chapters in her life, and we'll get into all of those here in just a second. This is the Sidewalk CEO. Amy, thank you for joining us.
So Amy, welcome. It's wonderful to have you on our podcast.
Glad to be here. Very excited.
So tell us about what you have going about your business. It's exciting. What is it you're doing?
Well, we're the Evergreen Southern Kitchen and Gathering Place, and we are out in Bridgeport, which is on the way to Waddy off US 60 in Frankfort, West Frankfort. And we've been there 3 years. A lot of things have changed in Bridgeport. We used to be a community that had anchored by the school, Bridgeport Elementary. That's been a long time ago, probably 20 years. And there were lots of things that happened downtown. We called downtown Bridgeport one little street. But the community was very close and close-knit, and we would close off the road and have something in the fall, or they would do fall festivals related to the school. There was a little store that was owned by the Cardinals that kind of anchored the community. And so it's been gone for a very long time, and my family's grown up there 3 generations, and my sisters and I live there now. My mom still lives there. When I retired, we wanted to open a business that gathered that Bridgeport community a little bit again. And we own a building. It's one of the only commercial spaces out there. It's 5,000 square feet. And we intended to just open a small gift shop for local artists and maybe a little bakery, because I was interested in doing some cakes on the side and baking a little bit. And we very quickly realized that there was a bigger demand for some things. Also, there's no restaurants really. When you leave downtown and hit the commercial restaurants on US 60, you'll go 8 to 10 miles before you get to us, and then another 8 to 10 miles, 12 miles before you hit another restaurant going into Shelbyville.
It's like Sonic, and then it dies.
And then it dies, yes. And so we're out there, and we thought, maybe just for the locals, might be nice to open up a little cafe to go with it, serve some coffee. And then it just grew from there, and we're 3 years old, and we've expanded to catering and event space because we've got a lot of space. And so we just renovated one of the small rooms on the side for a smaller set of event space, up to 25, and it's been used for very small baby showers or get-togethers with lots of girls like to get together. We have a little small bar in the back, so you can do whatever you really want over there. And then our larger space will hold up to 150. So we can serve events from anywhere between 15. We have some that are really small, up to about 150. We hosted a business launch there a couple of months ago that had right at 150 at round tables and very set up, and they had a designer come in, and it was very nice. So it's a great space. We gather community. People come out, regulars. They like to eat there. They like to just see what's going on, talk to each other. Reminds me of what we had 20, 30 years ago.
Sort of like the old general store.
Exactly.
Where that's where people know what's going on by just hanging out with folks.
Yeah.
Where we've lost that, I think, in today's age with everything being online, and people don't gather in person anymore. Mm-hmm. So that's wonderful.
Yeah, that was our intent. We put patio tables out front, so this summer you'll see people out with their dogs. They'll be sitting out front just taking their time. They just want to come. We don't want anybody to be in a rush. We can handle that if you need to be out fast, but we'd really rather they come and enjoy being out in the country. We are situated right across from a horse farm. You can watch them give lessons out the front window, which is really fun. So it's a nice place, and we just wanted to be a part of rebuilding that Bridgeport community.
Okay. So before we dig more into the Evergreen and your story there, this is really a new endeavor for you because you worked in the corporate world for a long time. So why don't you tell us a little bit about your background?
Yeah, so I have a doctorate in organizational development from the University of Louisville, and I worked for the state. It was a quasi-state agency. We were the state's housing finance agency, and I worked my way up into the executive management there. So I did that the last 13 years of my work career, and then retired from Kentucky state government. Doing organizational development. So, moving into something else. I'm young. I'm 50. I feel like I'm young. I feel like I'm old some days. I'm 53, and I retired 3 years ago when we opened the Evergreen. So actually, it's almost 4 now. It was right after 2020. I was ready to retire, not sure about building a business, but thinking, okay, this might be a good time to start. If you'll remember, right at 2020 and 2021, there was this throwback to building community and trying to be with people more because we hadn't been for a while, and it just felt right. And Mom and I started the business with my mom. She lost my dad several years ago, and I think it's been good for her to have something to build and to be a part of. So people come in all the time. That building was built in 1962, I believe, by my granddad. So it's on our family farm at the edge. And people remember my grandmother. They remember my grandparents. She ran a business there for 35 years before Walmart came in. And so she was the local Walmart. You could go and get pencils for your school kids, balloons for your party, or a bedroom suit. It's just was very, she was it. Or else you went to Lexington or Louisville. And it was called the Marian gift shop. Her name was Marian. And so after that, we had several renters in there over the years. But when we started the business, I think my mom and I...
That would be Murphy, who is our unbilled co-host.
He's helping me out with the interview.
Yep.
So we wanted to do something that reminded us of the time that she'd been there. She knew everybody in the community. The community would come there to talk and just catch up on things. And it was not a food venue, but it was really part of the heart of that Bridgeport community.
Right. So this has been the building, the facility has been in your family for many years.
Yes.
So this is a family endeavor. And you said you did start it with your mom.
Yeah.
And your sisters?
Yeah. Yes, I have 2 sisters. One not as involved. She comes and eats the meatloaf meal, and her son, my nephew, loves the meatloaf meal.
We had to have quality control,
right,
so that somebody has to check things out.
And my niece, she helped start. When we started, it was all family. And so my niece, Emily, came over, and she and my mom and I really started the business. And she has since moved on. She's getting ready to graduate from the University of Tennessee. But my second sister, Jenny, is more
Wildcat fans should not hold that against you.
There are times in the cafe that you'll see us all in Tennessee orange for Emily, and we tell people that on Facebook. Don't come out here and get us, because we're more likely UK blue the rest of the time. But Emily was great. Mom was great. We started it with just us. And then my second sister, Jenny, is really financially minded. She retired. She had a lot of accounting background. And so she'll help with the finances, or if there's something that I really can't figure out, she'll help with that. So she's more of a silent partner, but it's very much a family business. It's the 3 of us and my mom, and we all live right there on the farm, and we all are part of the Evergreen.
So how does that work with the whole family? I mean, does everybody get along well? I mean, you're all living there close together. You're working together. You're building a business together, and it works. Wow.
There are days Mom says, I just need to go home, and I'm like, it's okay, go home. She's done everything she wants to do, and she is peopled out, so she'll go home and come back, but she can walk across the yard and go home. Great. So that is lovely. And then our staff are really, we're kind of a found family out there. Our staff are people that I've known or known through people, and several of them have been with us since the very beginning. We started, probably went 3 to 5 5 months, just the family, and then grew very quickly and started adding in other folks.
Okay.
So it's a great staff. They're all part-time. None of us, I'm full-time, but I don't get paid. Mom doesn't get paid. We just are still in the growth part of the business.
Labor of love.
Yeah, it is a labor of love. We wanted to offer something to the community that we missed and we felt like other people might miss. And I think that's what a lot of the Bridgeport community uses it for.
Right. And, we heard that also with Sarah Boo, with Rebecca Ruth, that talking about how the staff that they have there have been there for so long and they're like part of the family. Yeah. And I think that really adds a lot to what you do. And I think people feel that.
Yeah.
So, and Sherry can particularly relate to this since Commonwealth Sentinel started in October of 2020. What were you thinking starting a business during COVID?
I know. Right. Well, COVID just interrupted my retirement plans is what happened. Okay. I really was planning to retire soon after. When you work for the state, you sort of plan your retirement or you plan to stay. But I worked for an agency that had pulled out of the retirement system. I helped them do that. And then I literally retired because we were a quasi and our retirement system was going to be a brand new one. And I was eligible to retire. I had been one of the executives helping pull out of the system. It felt like the right time. It just happened to coincide with post-COVID. Mm-hmm. And I'm not going to lie, a lot of our expenses in renovating the building, we gutted it. It really needed a lot of work. We replaced the electric. We gutted the building. It had been a lot of different things and needed a lot of love. It had great bones, but needed love. The worst time to build anything was right post-COVID when everything was so expensive. And I remember us thinking, oh, we've got these 2x4s still in the barn or any of those salvageable. Can we use some of the metal that we have? My granddad owned Joel Construction his entire life and worked in construction. So our barn is full of things that he had left over from projects or he just kept hanging around that he could use. And we used some of that and then we bought the rest of it. And, I'm sure that we could have sold that parcel of land the way it was zoned and someone would have liked to be in there, but we don't want to sell it. It's right on the edge of our farm.
Well, now, switching up a little bit to about the things that you are doing there. I was looking at your website and was reading about, a lot of different things you have. One thing I thought was very interesting, the crafternoons that you have on like one Saturday a month. Tell us about that.
We love that. We have partnered with a dear friend of ours who retired, Michelle Sutton. She's our paper artist, is what we call Michelle. And she is just lovely. She offered to come in and teach classes. And so one of the things we do at the Evergreen, because again, our goal is to build community and bring people together in ways that we couldn't during COVID. And we haven't, going forward, I think our generation, my kids, are going to struggle with being with people in a way that you gather and talk.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Yeah, my son, I only hear from him when he will text me.
Exactly.
He called me up, and I'm going to do it. It's taken us, how many episodes to finally get to this point, but he knows what I'm going to say. The day my son called me up one day, a few years back, and I was like, what's wrong? You never call me. Yes. He was calling me to tell me he'd been accepted to Harvard Law School.
Oh,
and so I was like, okay, all right, that's good. Thank you for not doing that by text, right?
Right. No, yes, that is exactly what's happening.
Everything is online. It's very impersonal. Everybody's working remotely now.
Yes. Yeah.
So do you have the ability for people to come into your space and work remotely and do Wi-Fi that they can? Okay,
we do, and so we do have people that come out. They'll come out and just set up somewhere, and that's a great thing. I think people who are working remotely, a lot of them want to be around people or just movement or noise. The crafternoons are a lot of fun because they're one Saturday a month, and you just rent $5, gets you table space. Usually it's a 6-foot table. And they, Michelle will have anywhere from 5 to 35. We've had to squeeze some people in there some Saturdays, but they come and they work and they stay from the time we open till the time they close. A lot of them will eat breakfast or lunch and then maybe take their dinner home, but they bring whatever they're working on. A lot of them are paper crafters, so they're working on cards or scrapbooks, or last month, a lot of them had their Christmas things out and they were working on projects for Christmas. So they get to talk to each other about what they're doing and see what they're doing. And I remember one of my best memories of just starting the Evergreen is one of our first crafternoons. We had 3 little sisters. They were probably in their 80s or 90s. And one of them knew how to arm knit. So she was knitting with her arms with this big bulky yarn.
I've seen that. I hate to say this. I've seen that online.
I know. Well, she sat there and taught her other 2 sisters how to arm knit at the first crafternoon. And it was so sweet and such an unusual thing. So everyone was interested in watching it and seeing how much they could get done in the 5 or 6 hours they were there. So that's one of the ways that we have tried to pull the community in is through those crafternoons. But we've taught cookie classes. Michelle teaches card classes. My mom taught wreath classes, and anybody can come in and teach. There's a structure that we have for folks that want to use the space to teach classes. And then we help advertise the classes, and they can, use the space to teach something that someone wants to know. It's mostly crafting. We've had painting classes.
Oh, neat.
Yeah.
I've recently gotten into painting and I love it.
Yeah.
I absolutely love it. So I'm going to go a little bit technology since that's my thing.
Yeah.
So when you do these, are you are you taping them or doing like a Facebook Live so people maybe who can't come or are further away can participate or at least see what this is all about?
Yeah, we have not done that. We have 2 75-inch smart TVs that are there in that rental space, and we use them for the cafe as well to play music and have, an image up. But I think Michelle, I know she's had one big meeting out there and we've used it to communicate. So she had people who were in California and other places. And so she's used it at least once for that, but not necessarily for instruction. But I think it's a great idea for folks. We don't care how they teach, and our internet access, even being out there and very rural, is very good. One of the things I did when I first opened to test the internet access and the Wi-Fi is we had a group of about 50 IT folks rent the building, and I asked them to just do everything that they could possibly do to that Wi-Fi and see if they could work there and work, remotely and connect to their network back at their building. And they did, and it worked really well. So even though we're out in the, a rural area, we seem to have the access that people would need.
Okay. And I have to ask this, being cybersecurity, everything is secure on your network?
Yes. Okay. So my husband is in IT, actually. And fantastic. So my brother-in-law is very good at that. And to run our point of sale system, we have to meet certain standards because it's running on our network too. So, yes. That's awesome. I appreciate that question. And I actually come from my background with my old world. I oversaw information technology. So cybersecurity was such an important piece of what we did in state government. Yes.
And so this is a real switch for you. I mean, this is obviously your second career, and using the things that you had from your past career, and then your sister with the financial, and bringing a lot of different backgrounds together for, like you said, this labor of love. So the event venue, do you have a lot of things booked out, or how booked up are you?
Well, this time of year is graduation. So we've been booked almost every weekend for graduation parties. I think the main use of our space is showers, wedding showers, baby showers. We honestly thought that it would be big family get-togethers. So we wired one wall specifically for crock pots and things that people would plug in and keep hot.
That's a great idea.
Because we were anticipating how we might use the space. And we thought, big families post-COVID, they don't want to be in their homes anymore. They might come out and do that. And that actually has worked out really well. A lot of the folks that rent, though, they ask us to do their catering. They don't need much, but they'll maybe cater the whole. Some of them want to come come in. They just want to come in, have their party, and leave. So they want us to do everything. Others will say, we had one this weekend. They just wanted 2 or 3 things off our menu, and then they brought family favorites. You know, I have an aunt that does cupcakes, or I have my grandmother's casserole that we want to use. So we love that. We absolutely love family traditions and anything like that that's going to help people celebrate the way that they want to.
I like that because it's not like there's some places where you have to use their catering. No. You're not allowed to bring something in. Yeah. So we
never want it to be like that. Yeah.
Okay, so now that we've finally gotten around to food, what are your specialties?
Yeah. So probably the thing I thought was going to be our specialty is our sunshine chicken salad, and everybody loves the chicken salad. It's sweet. It has cranberries, mandarin oranges, and pecans. So they love our chicken salad. I think it's probably one of the most purchased things off of the menu. But what has become the specialty is actually our breakfast hot brown. And we were the first one in Frankfurt to have it. We've had it for 2 years now. And so it's an open-faced buttermilk biscuit we make in-house. And we griddle some turkey, and we have a bechamel sauce that we make from scratch that my sister says you could eat it on shoe leather and it would be good. And then it's got bacon, and if you want the tomato, we'll put it on. A lot of people don't like the tomato. They don't want to bother with it, but it's such a good breakfast alternative, you know, and it's the hot brown. So who doesn't like a hot brown?
So how many days a week are you open?
So right now we're open Thursday, Friday, Saturday from 9:30 to 1:30. And then we rent the space 7 days a week. So we have businesses that will come out. A lot of times, since people are remote, they want to work in a central location, and they'll all come to us from different places. We pull a lot of people from Lawrenceburg and Simpsonville and Shelbyville and Louisville. We tend to be pulling more from the Louisville side of the state than the Lexington side, which makes sense. We're on West Frankfurt, and we're right off US 60. We're about a mile and a half off US 60.
When my wife and I bought our house in Frankfurt a few years ago, our real estate agent was saying that he had begun to see a shift where if somebody was moving to Frankfurt, it was from Lexington, and now it was like more Louisville folks are looking in this direction because it's a more affordable community to live in, and there's other opportunities that you don't have to stand in a line in like you would in Louisville. So.
True.
Yeah, we tend to go to Louisville instead of Lexington for the things that we need because we're on the west side. But I think Simpsonville and Shelbyville are seeing a growth. We partner with Karen Van Meter at Cake and Candy Supply in Shelbyville. She's on Walter Mack Road, right into Shelbyville. And if you've not been there, you should go for the sprinkle wall alone because the sprinkle wall is amazing. Oh, wow. You should look her up on Facebook. But she's great. We get a lot of our supplies for our cakes and our candies and things like that from there. And she's just been a great partner since the beginning. We actually opened within maybe a month or two of each other. And so she's been in business almost 4 years now too.
Okay.
In addition to having worked with the state and now being a restaurateur, you are also an author.
I was. Yes, I was. I am. Yes.
You are.
Yes. I have a book on Amazon. I went through breast cancer. I was diagnosed in 2016, and that was sort of a halting point in my life. There's like the before the breast cancer and the after the breast cancer, I think, in terms of my life journey. But when I was going through that, and it was a almost 3-year journey is what I'll say. I think when people have cancer, and a lot of even my very close friends, they think it's just the surgery and maybe that initial chemo, and you lose your hair and then your hair comes back, and that might take less than a year and then it's done, and it's really not. I'm still on maintenance chemo now in 2024-5, and so I was always looking for guidance to go through that, and I had friends that had gone through that, but I'm a reader. I mean, I absorb it. I love school. I love to learn, and I wanted a book that would tell me what was going to happen, and there just wasn't anything like that out there. And so one of the things I did was I kept a blog on Caring Bridge, which was just so that I didn't have to talk to so many people every day because I was really tired. And I took that after I stopped the chemo, I guess. So it was probably 2 years out. I took the blog. I worked with a friend in Louisville who helps people launch books. And she helped me turn that blog into actually a book that people could use, but also talked about my faith and my faith journey through cancer. So My Faith Sparkles, it's on Amazon, and I don't make really a single cent off that. Every book that sells, we donate a book. So I leave books often at the Cancer Center here in Frankfurt. I'm with Baptist Health, so we've dropped them there. We've dropped them to Louisville at several of the cancer centers, and they hand them out to their patients. If I have them at the shop, you can come in at the cafe and I'll give you one if you know somebody that's going through the same kind of journey. But yes, I'm an author. I'd always wanted to write a book. My master's, my undergrad and master's was in English and English literature, and I honestly thought I might be a writer, but there's really no money in that. So
you're a Renaissance woman.
I like to do a lot of things, and if I try something and I'm not so great at it, I'll decide, do I want to invest the time or do I want to move on to something else?
Well, congratulations on your journey, on your recovery.
Thank you.
And I looked
really
at
well.
your book online. We'll include a link. Yeah. But I saw you have 4.8 out of 5 stars.
Oh,
so
right. That's
you
great.
I'm going to actually take a look at it. I have a personal history. My brother had colon cancer, and I took him to his chemo every other week down at Markey in Lexington, and I got to see from a sibling perspective what he went through, and it's a horrible thing, but to use your experience to share with others, I think that's wonderful. So thank you for doing that. I am definitely going to take a look at your book for sure.
We appreciate it. Yeah. And just know that when you do, it gives somebody else one of the books too, which is really nice.
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely.
It's at the Paul Sawyer Library. My sister works down at Paul Sawyer, and so we donated several copies there. Good. That's where we had the book launch. So if somebody, can't afford it or doesn't want to keep a copy, they can go down there and read it.
That's great.
Yeah.
Wow. You're an amazing lady.
Kind of difficult to transition from that, but we're going to try here.
Yeah. Talk about food some more, or like bechamel sauce or chicken salad.
So how have you gotten the word out to the community and what you're doing, and what's been effective and what hasn't?
It's interesting. We everyone, I think, uses Facebook, and we have a website. I think it's fairly nice. It's got all of our information on it, but the website is only used if people actually want to contact us. We try to funnel all the traffic to the website, but Facebook has probably been the best. We've used paid Facebook ads. Those don't really work for us. I can't think of a single thing that we've gotten in terms of a connection or a sale from a paid Facebook ad. But our regular Facebook traffic, if we post something, a couple months ago, we did cakes that look like the Cake Bake Shop out of Florida. Oh, wow. And so we just had a few, kind of some leftovers from a cake that I did. And I think within 2 hours, they were all gone. And people were still calling. They were still calling for the next couple of days, wanting to know where those cake bake, cakes were and were we going to do them again.
Facebook can be an effective way, but around 2020, Facebook changed how you could target. Okay. And once they did that, it became more challenging for businesses to use it the more targeted they were. If you want a really big, broad, large audience, it's still kind of effective. But, you're not looking to get business in Cincinnati or Cleveland. So, yeah, I can understand that. What other ways? Obviously, word of mouth, I'm assuming.
Mm-hmm. Word of mouth is where we get the majority of our business, quite honestly. We have a newsletter, and so it's grown to between 250 and 300. And so we will usually publicize the classes in that, something that's coming out a little later, because that's just a once a month newsletter, or something that's going to be special.
How do you distribute the newsletter? Is it email or is it mail?
It is email.
Okay,
it's
good.
An email newsletter, yeah. That way it's easy to do. You can do it from your phone, MailChimp is what we've been using. And so we've put ads, like we use the State Journal when they call and they're running a special or they're doing something like that. We use them a little more at the beginning. I'm not sure that our clientele's coming from reading the newspaper either, but we often will advertise through the State Journal. And then really that's we do some very targeted marketing. So I will say, this is an example. 2 weeks ago, we did sugar cookies, individually packaged for the teachers, and we sent them with a little coupon on the back that said you can use this through the end of December for a free latte or a free cookie with the purchase. And so we bagged the cookies. We put a little sticker on the front that had our logo on it, and also had just something that said thanks for being a great teacher, or congratulations on finishing your school year, something like that. And then we put a little coupon in it to try and get some of the teachers to come out. So we have done more targeted marketing like that. I have recently started working with some of the Bourbon Trail folks. We have buses that come up 60.
Now there you go.
Right. They're driving into Frankfurt to use all the distilleries and to take the tours. And so they're eating lunch places. They're eating at Heavens to Betsy in Lawrenceburg, or they're eating at Stack's. We'd like to offer them box lunches if they want to keep going, because we do a lot of box lunch sales for state and businesses that just want to come in and pick up their box lunches. That's a large part of our catering.
Okay. So I live in Louisville and work in Frankfurt. And so like yesterday, the westbound 64 was closed down, right, for construction. So I had to go 60 to go home. And I do that every once in a while. And I was thinking about this because I knew we were going to be talking with you today. And there really are not a lot of restaurants, like you said, along there. And with the Bourbon Trail tours and whatnot, that's an excellent connection that you have. What about, you mentioned teachers and schools. Do you have like any kind of thing where they can do field trips out there? You said that this is a farm. Is it a working farm? Is it? No, it's not. Okay.
We were a tobacco farm, and then that's been gone since my grandparents and my dad. Sure. But we have partnered with the Frankfurt Christian Academy, and they have an Extreme Week every year. So I believe it was last spring when they had Extreme Week, we taught a week-long cooking class. So the kids came out every day and they learned knife skills and safety skills in the kitchen. And then every day they learned a recipe and learned how to cook something, and they ate it for their lunch. So it was a lot of fun. It was maybe 10 or 12 kids, 2 teachers, and it was just, we really wanted to do something to, it gives back and also lets them come out and have an experience that they wouldn't have had other places. So those are things that we are trying to do. And we're starting what are called experiences. Those are very popular in the bigger cities right now, in Louisville and Lexington. But Bourbon Ball experience. You can follow the Bourbon Trail. If you want to spend an hour and a half, you can come eat lunch and we'll teach you how to make a bourbon ball. Or, how to put together a hot brown. And we'll talk a little bit about the history of food in Kentucky and things like that. We're hoping to do those in our we're getting ready to launch our new room. We've got new furniture in there. So it's the smaller room that holds up to 25. Okay. And that's really a perfect space for like a group of 10 or 12 or 15 that want to come out and have a small box lunch, but also want to learn something about Frankfurt, the food here, how it's connected to bourbon. Okay.
Is that the surprise lunch you were talking about on your webpage? Okay. I wanted to ask about that. What was the surprise? I didn't know if you'd be willing to.
The surprise is out.
Okay.
We're working with the chamber because we did a ribbon cutting with the chamber when we opened 3 years ago, but working with the chamber to do a ribbon cutting and get it on their schedule for probably early fall, late summer, early fall, to launch that room, because this is the first dedicated room to things like that. So if people even want to rent it, there are a lot of local entrepreneurs that have pop-ups or want to do special dinners, or, we're perfect for that. If these local folks that want to cook every once in a while and have a place to serve, they can rent our space and be able to serve right out of the kitchen and, use the space for having these experiences or dinners that they want to do.
Absolutely. Or like if you, I don't know, had let's say a cybersecurity company and wanted to do a cybersecurity presentation for the community.
We do that often.
Okay.
Realtors, anybody that wants to do some type of presentation where they are trying to bring people in. Right. A lot of times they'll just want to have a small like charcuterie or graze tray. They'll want to use our technology. They want the seats, and we've got space now for 25 up to 50. There's a smaller area, and then the big room, which is 150. Okay. So we can accommodate, and the pricing structure accommodates that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, not to jump around, but you mentioned lattes. Do you do chai lattes?
We do not. Is that something you love?
I love chai lattes.
Okay.
You might want to add that to your menu.
That's probably one of the few we don't have.
Okay.
We're not a Starbucks. We're not ever going to be a Starbucks, but we.
Well, no, because you don't charge $10 per.
Right. Yes. Nobody would pay that out there. But we do mostly cover we do hazelnut, we do French vanilla, we do in the fall we'll do pumpkin spice, but we have it all year long,
So do you have different things for different seasons? Like, do you have special Christmas things, or like October with all the fall stuff?
Yeah.
And
one
spring?
of the great things you can do with a small business where you control the menu is you can cook seasonally. So in March, we had our Guinness stew. Our Irish stew is very popular, and soda bread. So we sold that for 2 months, actually. We went March and April. In April, we started our cabbage rolls, mashed potatoes, just an old Southern dish. Those have gone over extremely well, and we're still serving those actually through the end of May. So now we'll switch in June. And we just started our gumbo. So we usually have a seasonal seasonal soup that we change out, and then a seasonal entree that we're changing out. And they usually go 1 to 2 months. And then we always have seasonal desserts in the bakery case. So now you're going to see strawberries and lemon and rhubarb and things for the summer and fall. Yeah.
Well, now, so you're open Thursday through Saturday. Is that all day?
9:30 to 1:30.
9:30 to 1:30. So you're not open for dinner?
No, we don't do dinner.
Okay.
Yeah. We rent at night some. We have just some groups that come out at night, so it's really better for us, and the staff are part-time. So
right, you'd have to get more staff.
It keeps us balanced on the rental space and the cafe space.
Okay.
So if someone were thinking about starting a business in Franklin County right now, what advice would you give them based on your experience over the last few years?
It's a really good question, and we've thought about this a lot. It was very difficult to start the Evergreen. And a lot of that was because there wasn't a single point of entry, it felt like. I think Frankfort is not small business startup friendly. There's a lot of focus on growing the existing businesses as well. But I think they're hard on small businesses. They don't mean to be. And by they, I mean not just the government and the regulatory people, but also the community. I think the community wants things, and then we'll support them at the beginning, and then it sort of, just pitters off a little bit. I think it's just the nature of Frankfort. I've lived here my whole life. So twofold, I think regulatorily, it would be great to have like a one-stop shop. And we had to be connected with the health department, obviously. And Wes Clark was that for us. I would ask him, what do I need besides what you're doing? And so you have to work with multiple agencies. A lot of times they're not all connected. So everybody needs something different from you. And depending on what you're doing, there's a different type of permitting that you need, or multiple permitting. There is no one place where you can go. And I went to the chamber, honestly, thinking that might be helpful. And I think the chamber is such a great resource for Frankfort, probably for any county that they're in. But the best that they can do a lot of times is connect you with an existing business to help mentor you through the process. Mm-hmm. So if somebody has come to me, and they have in the last couple of years, I try to tell them what we went through and where we went for help and the things that we needed, but it's different for everyone, which I think is what makes it so difficult. And there were a lot of times at the beginning that it felt a little bit like people were trying to wait us out. Like, they'll go away if we just, if it'll go away if we just hold out on this. Or a lot of the time that we were trying to get, it was post-COVID, but also it was the beginning of the distillery boom, really, here in Frankfort. And so there was a lot of permitting that was having to happen around what was happening at Buffalo Trace and some of the other places. And so I think we often got lost in the shuffle of that too. I don't have proof of that, but I think it's just what happens. It felt that way. Yeah. So I think Frankfort's a little hard on small business. And the main thing that's hard on us now, I think, is the lack of state workers here. You know, you set up a business thinking you're going to have this huge base of people that would be here during breakfast and lunch. And we used to. But I think for restaurants, we can't support that anymore. And by the time dinner comes around, everybody's gone, even if they were working here. So Frankfurt's always been like that. It rolls up at 5 o'clock. The streets roll up. And I think downtown Frankfurt Incorporated is doing a really good job of trying to get, more business into the downtown. I love everything that they're doing, but I think that also often leaves out the folks of us that are out in the county. Mm-hmm. So I don't know what the answers are. These are questions that I'm starting to ask as a small business owner, and one that is watching, prices go up, and just the everything around us is changing. People are spending their money differently. That started happening in the last couple of months. And I think there are just a lot of things that we need to be talking about in Frankfurt, especially as a small business and not a chain.
Right.
All right. Any last thoughts that you'd like to share about the Evergreen Southern Kitchen and Gathering Place?
We'd love for you to come see us. Come to a crafternoon. Come eat with us at the cafe. We do catering. We'd love for you to have an event out there. That would be, that's the fun part, when people can come to the building and celebrate something. And one of the things that is just great for Mom and I is we've been open 3 years now. So we've had someone who's come out and had a wedding shower. They've gotten married. Now they've come back for a baby shower. They've had the baby. And then we've had one that had celebrated the baby's first birthday. So they've been there 3 years.
Exciting.
And, that is it gives me cold chills. My grandmother used to see that. She used to see that in her business, where someone would come out, they're starting their family, they're getting married, then they're starting their family, then they come back for anniversary or whatever.
It's a tradition.
It is.
So
now we'll have links and
be there for the baby's graduation from high school.
Yes.
We'll have links and stuff in the show notes, but your address?
Yeah, we're at 450 Evergreen Road on the west side of Frankfurt, right off US 60.
Oh, great. Awesome. Well, thank you very much.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. It was great.
Amy, thanks again, and we really appreciate you taking the time out to talk with us today. You're listening to The Sidewalk CEO. I am Leo Haggerty.
And I'm Sherry Donahue.
Join us the next time when we're talking to maybe one of your favorite business people in and around Franklin County. Thank you.
Bye.
You have been listening to the Sidewalk CEO podcast with Sherry Donahue of Commonwealth Sentinel Cybersecurity and Leo Haggerty of TCHQ Communications. You can learn more about the Sidewalk CEO on the web at thesidewalkceo.com and on social media. The Sidewalk CEO is recorded in the studios of TCHQ Communications in Frankfort, Kentucky. Check us out next week for the next episode of the Sidewalk CEO.